have a completely new life. So that is these are the stories that we want to tell today. And you see so many people here eager to tell their stories. I want to start with Dr. Prema Kodandaraman and her husband, Sri Nithya Natarajananda. And both of them are going to share their stories on their journey with Swamiji, how they came to meet him, and how his presence in their life has transformed them. So first I'll start with Dr. Prema. Dr. Prema, you are Nithyanandam, so nice to see you. And you've known Swamiji for a very long time, and you're a doctor, and you're an extremely successful doctor. So one thing we want to know is how Swamiji's teachings about Hinduism and related to Hinduism, his teachings about health and mental health and understanding, how that has evolved you as a doctor and how it has helped you be a doctor. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yes, Nithyananda. So, when I went to medical school, fellowship, came to US, did my training and fellowship, almost I spent about 14 years. Mostly I was practicing medicine only with my intellectual learning, like from the books and from the knowledge we gained through our training. But once you get to know Swamiji and doing the programs and listening to him about health and everything, you yourself become a miracle to yourself, like the wisdom inside growing about health and everything. It changed the whole even understanding of health of the people, like understanding like how what's medicine is, like the way you practice, the way you approach, the way the diagnosing, treatment, everything is totally different. And the work, it becomes so effortless, and so many things, so many incidences I want to share. Sometimes before you do the protocol to treat patients, but once with Swamiji's this energy and always you even without you getting the test or lab results or ultrasound, you have that body scanning skills, you diagnose, you treat, and it's like a effortless work has become very effortless. And even the patients, they feel the difference, not like just a regular doctor giving a prescription. It's more than that. It's not just knowing what my specialty is. It's more than, even if a patient comes not with the gynecology issue, I can say she has a thyroid problem, she has. So it's the wisdom grown inside by being with him and knowing about health. It's not through the training. It's more than what the colleges and the universities teach. So that it's different.
Great, Ma. So I know you've been with Swamiji for a very long time. And can you say something about your journey to being a Karta? You're already a Sarvagna Pita Yajaman. Can you say something about how your journey to being a Yajaman and then your journey to being a Karta has enriched your life? How has that changed your life?
Yeah. I think each time, you want to become a Sarvagna Pita, that all the patterns about money, holding on to it, are insecurities, and what about tomorrow? What about my kids? What about everything? So then the minute I think of Swamiji, I can give anything to him, okay, it's just a small amount of money. Then I always go through that conflict. Once okay, it's let me contribute, and then so once you do it, and as I see that whatever you're giving, as always, Swamiji doesn't need anything from us, but what comes back is more than 10 times or 100 times, or you cannot measure it. So when I wanted to be a Sarvanyapida, that, how my mind was restricted, my cognition was restricted with the money. Once I get liberated from that, what I'm creating now is 10 times more. And I don't have those, that karma is permanently removed from me. And once I say, okay, when I can be a Sarvanyapida, that, the karta was even at the initial level, okay, what if my kids, don't get a job, or some kind of fear will come, unknown insecurity feelings. But once I complete with that, like the abundance opens inside of me, I see the abundance is created outside. So I used to see 25 patients getting tired at the end of the day. Now I see 50 patients. And then, so sometimes so many miracles, like I'll be thinking of something, it happens. So like even to hire people, I'll be struggling with hiring people. Now, like they are just walking into my life, whether I hired a new doctor and a new nurse practitioner, and even the help I want, like the minute I kind of think about it, think of Swamiji, so that abundance is, the more I contribute, I see the abundance. I'm not giving it to Swamiji. I'm actually blessing myself. Whatever I was suffering with, I need to this much work to create this much work to do. Now it's like there is no counting, there is no thinking, there is no effort, there is no and then I see, hey, like it's not just Swamiji wants anything from us. He's taking out our own restrictions and our own patterns of restricting wealth, and it's not always hard work to create it. And you can create by you cherishing abundance inside, the abundance happens outside. So that's why I'm happy that he gives me the opportunity to do that.
That's great, Ma. I think this is the testament of Swamiji and also the ecosystem that he has created here in LA that allows for people who even come to the temple to feel this and get connected to Swamiji. Thank you for sharing it. Very quickly, I know you have a great story about how you met Swamiji for the very first time. And that's a very sweet story. If you could share that with others, that would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I always like to share my very first experience with Swamiji. I really will make it brief because I made so many videos about it too. Like before Swamiji, the life was so routine, going to college and coming home, relatives, eating, sleeping, getting lots of degrees and focusing on it. But I know only my workplace, the hospital and house. I'm not a person who goes out to meet people, or I'll never meet a new people quickly, like it's my home or my work. I know I always how that compassion of Swamiji, to come to the workplace where I have to see one of his disciples as my patient, and I had to do a surgery. And in the waiting room, like Swamiji with few other disciples were waiting as a family to her. And I just went and casually met him, shake his hands, and started talking to him in Tamil. And then he said, oh, where are you from? I said, my grandparents are from Tiruvannamalai. He said, oh, you're from Tiruvannamalai. I'm from Tiruvannamalai. So those introduction, even though it was very casual and friendly, and that kind of turned my whole life, like an instant connection and an instant love. And I don't know who he was, but I never met something like him in my life. That curiosity grew, and then I just started going behind him in LA, everywhere, reading his books, listening to him. And it's like I was a stone and he made me like a statue, but it was so no pain, no effort, no effort on my side. The instant love has grown into a unlimited love towards him. And I know Swamiji showers back millionfold. So if it was not a hospital, I was wondering where could have I even met him? So even his grace, avan arulale avan thalpaninde. So that's, I think it's this life's blessing to meet Swamiji in that way, that from that point, I was not focusing more on outer world. I started focusing, okay, it's all inside of me, in me, and Swamiji revealed so much for my transformation.
That's so beautiful, Ma. And I wanted to translate the sentence that you said, Avan Arulale, Avantal Vadangi, which means even to fall at Swamiji's feet, to worship him, you need his blessing, right? So I think the key thing is everyone who is here in today already have received the blessing. So we just have to fall at his feet. That's it. I think that's the key thing. Anybody who comes to in contact with Swamiji, who's heard about him, watched a program, he's already blessed you. We just need to now take that blessing and make that a reality in our life. It's a very simple step forward. You take one step, he takes the next million steps towards you. Thank you so much, Ma. That was so beautiful. Now I would like to ask Sri Nithya Natarajananda to say a few words. I know he's an entrepreneur and he is a really successful entrepreneur in the LA area. And Aya, can you say a little bit about your journey to being an entrepreneur? Maybe we can start with your journey to being a Hindu first, and then we can talk about your journey to being an entrepreneur.
If I might add here before Sri Natarajananda starts, he is also the force behind Dr. Prema Kodanraman. But she is the doctor attending to the patients. He is, the person who takes care of all the other sundries, all the other aspects of their, business and, things like that. So together they have a beautiful journey with Swamiji's blessings.
Yes.
I would definitely say that because of being with Swamiji, we definitely are a force behind each other. I mean, how much he had contributed for me to change also is tremendous. Yes, we've been behind each other, supporting this beautiful journey with Swamiji. Yes. Like Muktika was sharing at the beginning, I also grew up in a Hindu family, but my formative years, I was agnostic, being part of the Dravidian movement, didn't care about, because nobody has introduced me to Hinduism, right? What it means. Nobody was there to answer my intrinsic questions about life, spirituality, and more importantly, Hinduism, deity worship, and all that. And but I was like any other kids growing up in India. You follow your parents, but you were not at the being level connected, because you didn't at the intellectual level understand the context, what it means to be a Hindu. Until I met Swamiji through my Prema meeting him, and then she brought me in. Everything has changed. It actually goes to speak about the importance of Kailasa. If one person like me who grew up in that environment, even though I grew up in India, I was so ignorant, right? It's so important that the Kailasa as an ecosystem has to reach. And everything we could do in our capacity, with our time, talent, and treasure, to ensure that happens is our number one priority in life. Just okay, what does that mean to not only understanding Hinduism, but once I started imbibing his teachings, his cognitions, how I changed all my patterns and started manifesting. Just give you one example, I used to, just like my dad, was just an engineer, like a software engineer working for a company 9 to 5, a typical Indian-born employee in the US. That was my life. But since Swamiji, I literally do 10 different things. It's got nothing to do with my bachelor's education. It was nothing to do with my master's education. It's all about life. But everything from running a practice to real estate and other entrepreneurship, and how I conduct myself. And I take, there cannot be a better CEO than Swamiji as the cosmic CEO. I've been with him running Sangha meetings, for example. That alone, that from micromanaging to the detail to the macro view of his vision, how he was able to transform that to the people around him, right? And that to me was the biggest takeaway for me. So I could apply that in everything that I do. The 10 different things that I do, 10 different hats that I wear, the principles, the approach, the inner space with which you approach your responsibilities, completely transformed. So that's an example of how the Hindu way of living, being part of the Kailasa, has affected me, has changed me personally, right? So every day I think about, hey, if I can benefit like this, there are literally billions of Hindus and billions of other people who are seeking something like that. And that's why Kailasa is so important. And we are so blessed being part of the Kailasa Los Angeles. I can share stories about how Swamiji started the temple, the programs he conducted, the personal space that he shared with us. Amazing journey, and I'm extremely blessed and full of gratitude for how he had transformed me personally. Yeah.
Thank you, yeah. Could you say a little bit more about, you initially touched upon this relationship between Dr. Prema and you, right? And I wanted you to say a little bit more, maybe both of you, both Dr. Prema and Kumaraya, you can talk about how being with Swamiji has evolved your relationship with each other. Because I think that's a very important part of life that we tend to miss out on. Like, people don't understand how Swamiji doesn't transform your work, transform you at work, transform you in terms of wealth, but health and relationships.
Yeah, there was a family discussion about love marriage versus arranged marriage, right? We were obviously arranged marriage, but we in fact, one of my friends used to say, hey, you fall in love after the marriage in the Hindu tradition, kind of thing. But after Swamiji, and probably about, we were 10, 15 years into our marriage before we met Swamiji. And then he transformed in our own way what it meant to be married to each other, like fulfilling each other's desires, eliminating fears, pointing out, in fact, I use Swamiji, for example, had taught us about completion all along without for a minute making it, right? It is such a profound way of transforming somebody. And that's how I see our relationship as husband and wife, as parents, transformed. Yes, there will be like a typical marriage, there will be disagreements, words exchanged and all that. But those, it even to cognize that, hey, when, yes, like Prema was talking about, when you are trying to chisel a deity out of a stone, there will be pain, right? That actually strengthened us. They strengthened the relationship and made us to realize exactly what it means to be married in a Hindu lifestyle. From the way we cook, from the way we deal with our kids, from the way we deal with our outer world responsibilities. It's amazing, natural, organic growth along the way. I mean, I would, I talked to a lot of my friends about, hey, this is, in fact, we watch Sita and Raman almost every day lately, and we take that as an example, how they live the Hindu way of married life. And every one of the Sanatana Hinduism's principle about family, married life, and all that has definitely shaped our own personal life.
And I think to add there is, being part of the ecosystem, how that has evolved all this for you, right?
Can I say a few things?
Yeah.
I think before it's unconscious, insensitive, emotional, attachment, expectation. Once Swamiji comes, the signs of completion. Now it's selfless, loving, no judgment, and accepting. And it's like the completion science helps every family, like dropping our own expectation of, I think Swamiji's earliest video will say like, oh, you don't cut the other person for your expectation. It'll have pain and bleeding. But you are, by being sensitive, loving, you accept as it is. And then there is a flowering of like understanding and loving, but no expectation, no attachment, nothing. It's just pure love and helping their journey. And it's also living together and understanding that each one is there for their own purpose and own life, and understanding life as a bigger, not in a selfish way of, but in a bigger thing. And then usually even with my daughters, with my everything is has changed, and it's all Swamiji's blessing, the signs of completion.
It's beautiful. Mom, Prema and I would like to ask you all, how are you feeling enriched by living in this LA ecosystem that Swamiji has created for all of you all? And how is that journey been?
See, LA is our family. Like in LA, temple is our being, our soul, where Swamiji lives, where Swamiji's energy is. I think like I feel all our LA Sangha is more than anyone else. It's like a cosmic family. And no matter what, like you are in the outer world, what you feel sometimes, like, you go back to temple, it's like an instant charger, like instant enthusiasm. Like, you can't even compare. To be very lucky to be in LA and to be part of our temple, and to LA is like, gave us a lot of miracles, to meet Swamiji, to be seeing him physically for a long time, and then to be part of our temple. And we have the great, like, the Mahant and Sri Mahant and like all our devotees, like, it's such a beautiful ambience, like Vada Varna for us to continue to live Swamiji's tattvas.
Beautiful, Ma.
One thing I want-
would you like to share your experiences and how are you feeling empowered by living in the ecosystem that Swamiji has created?
Actually, being part of the LA Kailasa over the years, it extended my, what I previously talked about, taking ownership of something and taking it to completion, no matter, whatever failures that comes along the way. That the enrichment that happens inside myself to take on tasks that you wouldn't even dream about taking on before. The renovation to when we install the new deities, how we were able to manifest so many things. It's just like 0.5% of what Swamiji did when he initially started the temple. But what I clearly recall how me being part of that effort allowed me to go beyond my limited view of what my capacity was, what I am capable of, what I'm achievable, what I could achieve. All that broke. I could deal with, the day laborers on Home Depot, all the way to collecting funds, to, working with the crane operators to install the deity. It's an amazing transformation within myself, and I see that every day. So every time we go there, you walk in the door, you feel like, hey, I'm home again, kind of thing. So that's the kind of Vadavarana that temple carries.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I remember, like, in LA, I met Swamiji like a teenager. Like he came in and like very easy, and how he put all his time, energy so close with devotees. I have so many doctor friends, they share that he visited their house, and like many people in Arcadia and Pasadena and ashram, we all will go. Like Swamiji very casually do rituals there, homa there, and just you can see him close by. And even Puja Divya, that when Swamiji is at temple, they will go 10 times to get his hugging. He will hug and bless and buy his books. And I know Swamiji's vision for LA Sangha. It's the Western headquarters, and it's the second Bidadi, it's and we know, like personally, that how Swamiji spent so much time in LA Sangha and the deities and Prana Pratishtha he did. And we are so blessed to see from the seed and to grow. And it's like, I know that the LA is going to be like, is the one of the real, the world class temple, like world class, how do you say, extension of our Bidadi. So by being part of it for a long time, then I do wish like every one of the whole world to be benefit by that.
Beautiful. Sarvanyapita are the establishments that are created whenever you see a decline in the way the Sanatana Hindu Dharma grows. The main pillars of Sanatana Hindu Dharma is the temple infrastructure, followed by the language and the culture. Any of these pillars, one of these pillars says decline or destruction, that is when Avatar descends and revives the entire Sarvanyapita to establish the Dharma back and to lead the people to the original purpose of life, which is living enlightenment. And Swamiji has revived these Sarvanyapita. On the one hand, Swamiji has revived all the ancient kingdoms, Hindu kingdoms, 21 Hindu kingdoms Swamiji has revived. And on the other hand, Swamiji has established these Sarvanyapitas across all the different places in the globe to revive the Sanatana Hindu Dharma and inspire of living enlightenment. So what you're seeing today is such a beautiful representation of the LA ecosystem, where a family who has completely just soaked in the love of Swamiji and how their personal lives, their relationships, their career, in all dimensions, you can literally feel that how Swamiji has empowered them in all their dimensions and how they are able to radiate the space of living enlightenment. And this is exactly what will happen when Kailasa is established in every part of the world. And that is the main aim of the Sarvanyapita project. Establishing these ecosystems all across the globe and making the every product of Sanatana Hindu Dharma in a user-friendly manner. So I request all the participants and viewers today, if you feel inspired to be part of this Sarvanyapita project, you can sign up in the intention sksjp.org, and we are going to be having many more powerful sharings of LA ecosystem, how this ecosystem has empowering them in the individual capacity and globally also. So next, we're going to be having Muktika and Muktaya would like to share who are we going to bring in the panel today. Next.
Thank you, Ma. SJP, the vision of SJP is so powerful, what you shared. Everyone has to be part of it, right? It is like when Sri Krishna established his, dharma into the world. There are people who stood with him, there are people who stood against him, and then there are people who stood neutral, right? Today, who do we remember? We remember the people who stood for him. And the people who stood against him, we remember, but not for good reasons. And the people who stood neutral, we don't remember them at all, right? So I think those who stand with Swamiji today and become part of SJP, support his SJPs, support Kailasa worldwide, are going to be remembered as pioneers of the new world, of this world where love, it becomes the operating system. The oneness becomes the operating system. So I feel that everybody who has any opportunity to even start today by saying, okay, I'm going to start with $5, $10, whatever you want to start with, right? It's like starting with it today to support Sri Kailasa, becoming an SJP is the best step forward. So one thing I want to do now is we will show a small video. Now that we heard a little bit about LA temple and the Kailasa LA ecosystem, let's watch a short video about Kailasa LA.
Inaugurated in 2007 by His Divine Holiness Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, Nithyanandeshwara Hindu Temple Los Angeles is a growing spiritual ecosystem in the United States. As Tirtha Sthalam and Punya Kshetra of Nithyananda Sangha, this temple is the home of more than 50 deities, including some of the largest murtis of Rajarajeshwari, Venkateshwara, Sadashiva, and Parashakti. His Divine Holiness himself performed the Prana Pratishta and Kumbhabhishekam rituals during the temple's inauguration in 2007.
Nithya
With the blessings of His Divine Holiness, the LA Sangha has continued to maintain the temple rituals for the past 12 years, including offering daily abhishekam to Sri Nithyananda. Inaugurated in 2007 by His Divine Holiness Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, Nithyanandeshwara Hindu Temple, Los Angeles is a growing spiritual ecosystem in the United States. As Tirtha Sthalam and Punya Kshetra of Nithyananda Sangha, this temple is the home of more than 50 deities, including some of the largest murtis of Rajarajeshwari, Venkateshwara, Sadashiva, and Parashakti. His Divine Holiness himself performed the Prana Pratishta and Kumbhabhishekam rituals during the temple's inauguration in 2007. With the blessings of His Divine Holiness, the LA Sangha has continued to maintain the temple rituals for the past 12 years, including offering daily abhishekam to Sri Nithyanandeshwara Paramashiva Linga, observing major Hindu festivals such as Mahashivaratri, Kartigai Deepam, Navaratri, Diwali, and many more, while also performing homas and other services typically offered in Hindu temples.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the video. That's such a beautiful video. Now, can we can go on to Dr. Peter Bloomfield, who is also a Karta of Sarvagnya Pida. And Dr. Peter Bloomfield would love to talk to you about your experience. I know you are born, when you were born, you were not a practicing Hindu. And over a period of time, you met Swamiji, you started practicing Hinduism in your life. Can you say something about that journey?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sri Mukta. Thank you guys for having me. It is a pleasure to be here today, this Los Angeles panel. So yes, I was, unlike the people who have spoken previously, I was not a born Hindu. And I was born into a kind of Catholic / Protestant family, but mostly agnostic and almost atheistic. So I had no real spiritual context for the world and was just going through material world. And then basically in my family was pretty much on the same page, right? So then I had just kind of spontaneous spiritual awakenings happen. And then I didn't know it at the time, but it was intense Kundalini awakening happening. And the world just started to look different to me. And I started having a number of mystical experiences where I experienced, I could just tell I was experiencing the world differently from everyone around me. And sometimes it was in a really blissful way, and sometimes it was in a scary way, all different types of ways. And I started to look into spirituality and still didn't really think much of Hinduism. I started doing yoga, but even yoga is often painted as more like Buddhist almost. In every yoga studio, there will be like a Buddha. So then it doesn't really connect to Hinduism as it's offered very much throughout the West. So then I started doing various spiritual paths. I tried out many, many different things. And I was having, I could say really powerful experiences, but I always knew I was like, this isn't quite it. You know, I'm enjoying this part of the ride, this part of the journey, but this isn't my, you know, this isn't my coach all the way home kind of thing. And so I was still kind of looking all the time. And then I met someone who was a strong, very committed disciple of Swamiji, and she was just had this extra layer of bliss to her. And then one thing, led to another in terms of experiences, and Swamiji knows how to speak to our listening. And I got the clear message that I needed to go meet him. And then, once I saw him, it was the end of the story, right? I was just finished. So I had no traditional Hindu backing, no traditional Hindu background. And even when I became Hindu, it was more like I just became with Swamiji, right? And then by definition, that meant Hindu. But it was my love and connection to Swamiji that was the basis for that shift in me. And then it just became natural to say, okay, then yeah, I'm Hindu. if being with Swamiji and following what he says and just enjoying him means being Hindu, then I'm for sure Hindu, right? And so I didn't have a big grasp of what that meant. But then as time has gone on, I've learned all I've read a bunch of books, I've studied the Puranas, I've had experiences with the deities and all that, and I've really gotten a very clear sense that the experiential reality that is pervading and permeating the world is taught from Sanatana Hindu Dharma, and that it's the ultimate, it's the ultimate way to relate to the world and the existential reality. So it's a very big shift for me. And even at the hospital, when I'm working, even when I'm not wearing these things, people know I'm different. And part of it is the accent, and they try to put like, where are you from? Like, what are you about? And then part of it is just the way I talk and the way I relate. It's just so different from how other people are relating. And then they're like, so like, what are you? Right? And I'm like, oh, I'm Hindu. And they're like, oh, really? I didn't know you could do that almost. Like, that's like shocks to their system, right? And then if I ever wear the kumkum, they ask me if it's Ash Wednesday. And I'm like, well, it's not even Wednesday, so it can't be Ash Wednesday, right? So people have trouble figuring out, what that's all about. But I feel, for me, that shift to Hinduism is just so foundational to my life and to my, stepping into the reality of who I am as an Atma, who I am as a being. And so, I enjoyed every step. I think, there are many people out here that are watching that were not born Hindu, right? There's some that are born Hindu, some are born Indian, Hindu light, all different stripes. But I think when Swamiji came, he brought so many people here with him to make this Kailasa happen, to make this Satyuga happen. Many of us were born into non-Hindu backgrounds, right? And so I feel the people who are born in a Hindu background are very blessed to have everything. I know there's all kinds of other nuances and aspects to it. But even those of us who are born in a non-Hindu background, Swamiji's calling to us as well, right? And when he calls us, he can call us really, really strong and really hard. And so I didn't, invite anyone out there, regardless of your background, you can become an extremely strong and committed and realized Hindu in this life. Because you have Swamiji, everything is fast track. He can clean out, all kinds of things in your DNA, and you just become a Nithyananda Gotra, right? And so that's been my experience. And I think, it's a possibility for anyone who's in a human body on this planet who has the capacity to run to Swamiji, they should get up and run like that.
That is such an amazing story and journey from where you were born to becoming Nithyananda Gotra. So thank you so much for sharing that. I want to ask you, you're on your journey, you're now a Karta, and that's a beautiful journey. And can you say a little bit more about how your journey to being a Karta has evolved you and, grown you to this level?
Yeah, sure. And I'll say, everyone comes from a different wealth background. And to become an SJP Yajaman is a big thing. Like for me, that was a huge leap, but I could do that. There are a lot of people in the world who have a net worth of, enough to become a Yajaman if they put everything into it, right? So that's one thing, but there's much less people who can become a Karta, right? Not many people are sitting around on $1 million US, even with inflation and all that. Still, it's a very big sum. So even just to become a Karta, there's a vanishing number of people who can comfortably do that, right? Very small, and then still a very small number of people who can do it if they put all their chips there, right? And most people, if they put all their chips there, they cannot become a Karta anyway, because not that many people have that many chips, right? So to be a Yajaman, I just had to put all my chips in and say, okay, fine, let's see what happens, right? But then to become a Karta, it took something else, right? And I didn't have a strong cognition that I should become a Karta, but I knew I wasn't done with Swamiji, and I'll do whatever, he wants and whatever it takes and all that, I'll just do it. And so I got, basically I got the combination of a logical investment that I think should make sense logically. And then Swamiji had mentioned in a little bit tangentially in a satsang, and whenever it's something like that, I like take note and write it down. Oh, Swamiji gives blessings for this. Okay, good. And then I had a direct darshan of a deity, right? All saying the same thing. And so I said, okay, fine. Whatever chips I have left and have, because once you become a yajaman, you'll get more chips given to you, right? So you just naturally will come into more wealth. So I took all that and I'm like, okay, fine. I'm get it from all sides, logically, cosmologically, everything. I'll just put all this into this. And then boom, suddenly like, oh, I can become a karta. And at the time when I could become a karta, or when it was time, I could have become, I had more than was needed, right? And then I had when it was time to give, I was reluctant to give, and I watched as it start to melt away. And just in time, I was like, okay, take, put it. That's good. So that was a whole other thing. But and I can't say it was an easy and smooth internal process. I'm laughing about it now, but at the time it was very different. But by through that process, the whole attachment to money and the whole drama around money just gets melted. So now I know, like, someone could say, what is your wealth? Like, how much is in your bank account or whatever? And I'm like, I have this much, it's fine. But I just know the whole system is cleaned out. I just know whatever I need, it'll just come. And it's kind of like watch. So like last program, I was sort of invited to declare for Ishvara, right? Ishvara is the next level after Karta. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Because no problem, because then whatever, I'll just line up with Swamiji and somehow it'll make it happen. And I get to kind of sit back and watch it, because for anyone out there, most of us have money issues, right? Mm-hmm. Most of us are born with intense fear around money and all that. When you line up with Swamiji and you promise it to Swamiji, then it just has to come through, right? It'll come through for that reason. And then when you give it, all the things just get cleaned out. And then you just know you can manifest as much money as you need, and the whole money becomes no drama. So it's like the best way it's so counterintuitive to the Scrooge McDuck mind, but like the best way to have no fear about money is just give it away. And suddenly you're like, okay, it's just there. I have nothing to worry.
Actually, I would like to add to what you're saying, Peter. Swamiji recently shared that there's not a single person in this world who became bankrupt by giving. Only when you spend, you may become bankrupt, but when you give, you're only showered, right? When you were sharing your journey, it just reminded me of what Swamiji has told. Like, you became a Sarvangapita Yajaman, then you started your steps. If I'm correct in understanding what you said, you started your steps, and over a short amount of time, you actually manifested the money that's required for Sarvangapita Karta, and maybe even more than what you required. And you went through that internal process of, okay, dropping all the insecurities and fear, whatever is stopping you in this journey, dropping all of that, and jumped it to become a Sarvangapita Karta, and now you're working for Pitadishwar. That's like a quantum jump, right? Like literally how Swamiji is giving that shifts and breakthrough within each and every person. Even from the space of giving, you're only showered more and more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, people who win the lottery, they usually end up like bankrupt and depressed, right? Because they get this money they didn't earn, and then they spend it all, and then they just feel miserable, right? Whereas when you sign up to be a SJP or a Karta, then the money will come to you, you'll earn it one way or another, and then you'll give it away. It's the complete opposite, right? So you end up, you may not have all this money in your bank account, but you have complete freedom around money, right? The people who are given all this money and then they just blow it and waste it, right? Thinking it'll make them happy. Instead, they end up unhappy and broke too, right? So, so when you're in the space of giving it away, you end up, you become like this, just as like they talk about a magnet, right? You just know the wealth will come to you. Then you have complete ease and freedom. It is such a gift. I know it's hard for me to say now after the conversations we had about a year and a half ago, but it's such a gift to give it away. It really is. It really is. I needed some convincing, but now I know experientially, right? I know the value of it. So thank you for that.
That's beautiful. Peter, so I would like to ask you this question. So what do you feel as the key, to have this jump from being a Sarvangapita Yajaman to Karta? What is that one element if you, like to share with all the viewers? From your personal journey, what do you think that is really important, or one shift that all of us must have?
Yeah, sure. To go from SJP from Yajaman to Karta.
Yeah.
I will say you just have to feel, you should not feel satisfied with Yajaman, is what I would say. See, some people could say, good, I've become a Yajaman. Now I can get personal time with Swamiji, or I can do this program or that program, right? Hey, they said they'll make some deity of me. Good, I can just sit back and I know there'll be a deity, right? And just relax. No, you cannot, that's not the way to get to Karta. The way to Karta is to say, I've just barely turned on the spigot of this operation, right? Let's put this to 11 and see what it sounds like, right? Let's go to next level. And it's like a form of Tejos, right? Just like I want to continue to expand, right? And I have a complete excitement. So you can sit back and relax. Even if you're just Swamiji's disciple, you can say, I'm just going to relax, and when I die, he'll come whisk me away to Kailasa, right? But you can say, no, I want to go to the next level, right? I want to bring this whole thing into the planet and have the exuberance and the enthusiasm of saying, okay, I've been able to support in this way, but that's not enough. I want to do more. I want to support more. I want this physical body to be useful for more and a higher level, right? Because I know when I do that, my whole system will get upgraded constantly. So it's a form of Tejos, right? It's a SJP Tejos, you could say. Should not be satisfied with Yajaman. There's next level.
That's beautiful. And one of the things which I remember from our conversations, one of the things which you mentioned on your journey towards Karta, that you really want to move to the temple, move next to the temple, and be surrounded with the LA ecosystem. So that's something so profound, right? So, somebody is saying that, okay, I want to take this jump as Saramipita Karta, and I also want to be closer to the temple. That really shows that how much temple has influenced positively your inner space, and that makes you to take that jump. Somebody shifting houses and then wanting to be around the temple, so you can spend more time with the deities and contribute to the ecosystem more and more. So what really inspired you to take this kind of a content shift, especially coming from a completely different background and learning about Hinduism, and then taking care of deities and totally in this a complete 180 degree shift? So what really inspired you, and how what would you like to share with all of our viewers about how ecosystem is so important today for us to learn and enrich each other with all the values that Sanatana Hindu Dharma has given us?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. And I feel we could talk about the Los Angeles ecosystem for days. There's so much material, huh? It's very rich. But I was before I moved here, I was living in Venice Beach, which is a very desirable, posh environment. And I had a good rent control. I had a great deal. I was basically living at the beach, just across the street from the beach, for very cheap. But then I just knew, once like I had said before, I had a mystical experiences and awakening, and started to see the existential reality of the world. And so even I would be looking at the beach and the ocean, and it's aesthetically very beautiful, but the energy I just know is not right. It's not the highest dharma through that space, right? And then I would come to Montclair, and if you ever go to the LA temple, the surroundings of the LA temple is not as of yet an ornate Vedic architectural environment, right? The surroundings, I'm saying, it's in a downtown area, and I know what it's going to become, but it looks very different from Venice Beach, you could say. But then just going there, this intense bliss happens. And I just know I would come to the temple, even just driving down the streets of Central Avenue to Montclair and all that, I'd come to the temple, this intense bliss will happen. And then I'll spend the time at the temple doing deity seva or whatever activity we're doing. And then I'll drive back. And it's like, as soon as you leave there's a certain area on the 10 when you're going into LA, and it's like you leave the energy field of the temple. And then I start to feel like a heaviness begin. And then you go into LA proper, and then you go into, the beach towns and all that. And the ambient energy is so different. So I just knew, hey, I just want to be here. Fundamentally, I think probably everyone here would love to sit at Swamiji's feet for millions of years, right? There's no other place to be, right? And then as close as I can get to that is being right next to the temple right now, right? So I just wanted to create that possibility. And I'd say moving here, just moving here is a big challenge. People will find things come up and barriers and obstacles just to move here, right? So you have to overcome all those. And then once you move here, then adjusting is a whole other thing. And it's a very strong energy field. It's LA Arunachala, right? So it's the fire, right? And so all kinds of things. And then I really feel the last few months, I'm just very settled and very blissful and excited here. So I would encourage, for anyone watching, go to the ecosystem that you can, right? Go to wherever as close to Swamiji's feet as you can get, right? If it's Bididi, that's fine. If it's Trivandrum, right? If you're in the US, then Los Angeles is just an amazing, strong place to come. And actually, we're really beautifully coming together. I can feel the alchemy has been happening. And I really feel 2023 is a breakthrough year for us. So it was a big jump. It was 2021, mid 2021. I was doing them both, right? I didn't know I was doing them both, but I found out I was doing them both, and I feel so grateful to have done it. I'm very excited to see what's next.
That's beautiful, Peter. And see, one of the things that really struck me when Peter was sharing is how the ecosystem supports that spiritual journey, right? Though there are so many places in and around LA, when he moves towards the temple, he is able to feel himself so centered. And that is exactly what Swamiji is doing by establishing these Kailasas all around the world. The impact that Swamiji is giving by these Kailasa ecosystem, it happens in all three levels, whether it is an individual level or at an ecosystem level or at a national or global level. So every single contribution towards the Sarvanyapita is actually towards establishing all these Kailasas around the world. So would like to invite all the participants and viewers, if you're feeling inspired that yes, this is a beautiful thing that's happening in the world, when world is facing so many issues out there, we don't have proper solutions for mental health even till today. We don't have solutions for hunger. We don't have solutions for so many other global problems today. But Swamiji is resolving all of these issues by providing authentic solutions from Sanatana Hindu Dharma. And these ecosystems serves as epicenter where these solutions gets implemented in a personal level and as a community level. So by supporting Sarvanyapita, you are supporting beautiful, blissful ecosystems around the world. So I request all the viewers out there to go ahead and sign up in the link that's being projected, sksjp.org/contribute. And there are many more such beautiful sharings that is awaited in this segment. We'll just take a few minutes break for all the participants and viewers to sign up in sksjp.org/contribute. And if you have any questions towards LA Temple, or how do we become part of LA Temple, and what are the things that you can learn if you want to visit LA Temple, all these questions you can also post them in the NPSM group that's been projected in the window. You can actually, the QR code is being projected, so you can scan the QR code. You will be to a Facebook page, and you can post your questions. And we have Ma Muktika and Sri Muktaya who are here, and they can directly answer your questions. So all your questions and feedback or whatever comments you have about LA ecosystem, feel free to post them in the group, and we will go through all your comments.
One thing I wanted to say is, Peter,
Inaugurated in 2007 by His Divine Holiness Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, Nithyanandeshwara Hindu Temple, Los Angeles is a growing spiritual ecosystem in the United States. As Tirtha Sthalam and Punya Kshetra of Nithyananda Sangha, this temple is the home of more than 50 deities, including some of the largest murtis of Rajarajeshwari, Venkateshwara, Sadashiva, and Parashakti. His Divine Holiness himself performed the Prana Pratishta and Kumbhabhishekam rituals during the temple's inauguration. With the blessings of His Divine Holiness, the LA Sangha has continued to maintain the temple rituals for the past 12 years, including offering daily Abhishekam to Sri Nithyanandeshwara Paramashiva Linga, observing major Hindu festivals such as Mahashivaratri, Kartigai Deepam, Navaratri, Diwali, and many more, while also performing homas and other services typically offered in Hindu temples. The temple also hosts a variety of events throughout the year that contribute towards the enlightenment ecosystem. As the spiritual ecosystem in Los Angeles continues to grow, we invite everyone to experience the temple space and connect with the divine by sitting for daily satsang, pada puja, power manifestation, or by being a part of the various programs and classes offered by the temple throughout the year. As we look towards the future and realizing Swamiji's vision for Los Angeles to have a temple that is fully agamic and a hub for power manifestation, we also invite you to contribute towards the realization of this vision with your time, treasure, or talent.
Yes, that's really a beautiful video. Like, just you can just feel the energy and the celebrations that happens in the LA ecosystem. And we have here Sri Muttaya and Mamuktika, who are joining with us today, sharing many such beautiful events that's happening in LA ecosystem. So I request all the viewers, whatever questions you have, whatever comments and feedbacks you have, you can post it in the MPSN group that's being flashed on the screen now, and we will get to the get to those questions, and they're going to answer live. So can we take a look at the FB page? So while we are taking a few minutes to go to the FB page, I have a question to both of you. I mean, how has it been the journey, the whole journey of being with Swamiji for more than a decade?